Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain today. We're just going to do a quick walkthrough. These are our late summer, early fall zinnias, and kind of wanted to show you how we got them so big and so lush looking. So let's come along and take a look. Hey folks, this is our zinnia patch. And so when you go and you look at this, you go, wow, this is September. Oh, what's today?
Second week in September.
Yeah, it's about the middle of September. We're gonna get our first big rainstorm near the end of this week, so this is probably about as good as they're gonna look for this season. And I just wanted to kind of walk you through what we did. This is a small, I guess, patch by anybody's standard, but for us,
it's plenty.
It's plenty. It really works out well. We've got all kinds of different varieties in here, from Oklahomas to some Queen Limes, lots of Benaries. And we did a couple of different tests on here this season, and the number one big thing we tested out was what's the effect of JADAM liquid fertilizer on the zinnias themselves. We plant zinnias late in the season. Give you a little backup history. We plant them late in the season, meaning that these were actually started in June and planted near the end of June in outside here. And we did most of them in 6-packs, but we also experimented with one box over here behind me, and we'll get to that. We used planting directly from mini plugs. So we tried 2 different planting techniques to see what the difference is between the Benaries using the 6-packs versus the Benaries using the mini plugs, and what kind of problems did we run into and that sort of thing. And then we also did an experiment on this year compared to last year. This year we fertilized all of these boxes with our JADAM liquid fertilizer, and seeing that, I think the growth has been really pretty good.
Why do we plant so late?
We have a despotic little beetle called the spotted cucumber beetle, and its biggest flush is usually quite early in the season, right around the end of June and the first part of July. And so if we can protect the plants to somewhat by getting them started later, we're going to get more of their growing when the cucumber beetle population has got back down to a more manageable level. It usually comes in a big wave when they start harvesting grass seed fields around us, and then it kind of peaks, and then it just really falls off rapidly. Usually what that is a strong indicator of is we've got lots of predators around here, from birds to bats to ground peeps doing work on the eggs, and
parasitic wasps.
And some wasps eating the eggs, those sorts of things. But so they migrate in, they munch on things for a while, and then they kind of dissipate out. And that's what we're kind of trying to time to when we grow, is we try to time it that the zinnias are going in the ground right about the tail end of the peak of the cucumber beetle. So the biggest flush has gone through. This year we kind of messed up a little bit by a few weeks, and so our initial plantings, didn't matter whether they came from a mini block or from a 6-pack, they got munched really good.
They got hammered.
They got hammered this year. But we kind of have to play a game, because we've only got so long in the fall before we don't get enough day length to get really good full doubles. And as you can see in here, we've got some full doubles and we've got some that are not. So that's always kind of
that tells us
the light levels are getting too low.
That they're changing.
Yep.
It's really becoming light levels and day length.
Right. The other thing we fight in the fall too is if we go into a really wet fall, we'll get powdery mildew pretty fast. But so far we haven't seen any of that in the zinnias at all this year, so they're looking really good.
They're really at their peak right now.
Right now. And this planting right here is, well, they're orange. I think it's Benary
It's
orange.
all Benary orange.
We got some Queen Lime on the end there.
That's blush. Queen blush.
Queen blush, okay. And then I'm not sure what
that's Magna.
Magna on the very end. But the bulk of this bed here on this one is the orange. And these plants are, you know, once they bloom and you measure from top of bloom down to the bottom, it's almost 4 feet tall. So they're really good long stems. So when we do cut, we get really nice long stems. And important things we noticed with the JLF. We're applying it, to kind of give you the idea of it, is we made last year, I'm going to back this all the way up to last year, we made a bucket of zinnia and marigold based JADAM liquid fertilizer. We did a video on it, and well, there'll be a little card up there we can show you. But we did a video on it, and we started using that material this year, and we didn't make a whole lot of it. We only made about 4 or 5 gallons of it, and it was enough for us to fertilize on a weekly basis in here for a good probably 3/4 of our growing season. And the last probably 3 weeks or so, we've had to switch back to totally grass-based JLF. But we think that we can see the plants are much healthier. It's like once they started getting a couple weeks behind them in the ground, and they're getting the JLF on a 7-day rotation, they began to respond really well. And as you can see, the foliage is a very good green, very little bug damage to it. We did no spraying of any consequence. We did a little test pattern of some JADAM wetting agent, but we didn't really do any wholesale spraying for insects of anything. And the plants got healthy enough where they basically fought it off. And it was all applied, all the fertilizers applied with drip. We set up, we had an old EZ-Flo 1 gallon garden thing that we had years ago that was for back in the days when we were still using chemical fertilizers. Bad for us, but we were at that time, and it was set up to basically apply that material through a drip system. So I rejiggered it up and hooked it up to these 7 boxes here, and they have been automatically being watered with the JLF on once every 7 days. Okay, this is the EZ-Flo system, and I don't think they actually make this model anymore. It was billed as a 1 gallon model, but it really only holds about 116 ounces instead of 128, which would be a full gallon. So, but it works out pretty well for us. So what we do is we will take our JLF and we run it through a 200 mesh screen to take out any oversized material, because this type system does not do well with anything that's a large particle size, and it's not good for your drip emitters anyway. So we filter that oversized material out, and then we'll fill up the internal canister for 116 ounces. And this has multiple settings on it, but the fastest setting is a 1 to 400 dilution. So that's a fairly weak dilution, but what it will take is we water at 20-minute cycles. So when you figure out in the entire 7 boxes how much water is going out, it takes approximately 7 watering cycles for this entire tank to flush out. Now during the peak of summer, we were watering at 3 times a day. So we were basically flushing it out fairly fast, in about 2 days, roughly, tops, to get the entire amount out and distributed to the plants. And actually, at first, I was thinking, wow, that's a really weak dilution. I wasn't sure we were going to get a response. But I think the methodology of going to a 7-day rotation with the higher dilution rate actually worked out really well. We did a video earlier on Alstroemeria over here, which is right next to it, and you can see this is September, and these guys are putting out some really beefy stems.
Yeah, and we're taking bunches out of it very regularly.
Just a little small patch. So, and then the zinnias here, we've gotten some really, this is an older bloom, but some ones that are hand size, blossom size. So.
And in September, that's not usual.
Yeah, so they really have done well. And it's a simple system. It works on a siphon. So the basic drip system is we have a check valve in the front to prevent any kind of backflow. The actual Venturi device, it's a small Venturi device that hooks the inflow, which is clear water coming into the tank to pressurize it, pushes the fertilizer out, and it's metered back into the solution that goes through an automated timer, which turns our system on and off at regular times. Another filter system just in case any oversize snuck through, and then a pressure reducer. So it's all kind of an inline thing, and it works very, very smooth. So the only thing I have to do basically to maintain it is make sure I'm going to replace this clear line with a black line next year, because what I've noticed that UV light getting into it can cause a little bit of algae growth. So you got to make sure that this line stays, you know, pretty clean. But other than that, there really isn't been any extra maintenance needed to do, and it's very easy, you know, once you get the JLF filter, to just fill this guy up, hook it up, and let it do its thing. I think it's been really successful. This box here of this variety of zinnias were all planted from mini blocks, and I'm not sure I would do it again, but it wasn't necessarily a failure. But the smaller plant really got hammered worse than the ones that were grown in 6-packs, and I think it's a function of, you know, until the root system can reestablish itself, the plant is kind of in a weakened state. And so these guys took longer to grow out of the bug damage than the ones that were started in 6-packs. Those originals that I was standing by earlier were all from 6-packs, and they're about a foot taller than these guys. So even though these guys are looking healthy, they put out some good sized blooms.
I've taken a lot of bunches out of here too.
Yeah, I mean, it's done okay. It caught back up in a sense from a productivity standpoint. But I'm not sure the advantage is really there to start the zinnias in the mini blocks and plant directly from the mini blocks. So that one, I'm kind of on the line about. I think maybe if you were in an area where you didn't have early bug damage like we had, that might have worked better.
Right.
So it's kind of a 50-50 thing. I think if you want a stronger plant in the initial phase, you got to have something that has a bigger root system.
But we tried really hard to see if we could avoid the cucumber beetles, and we didn't. Actually, they were in a couple of weeks when we were probably at the height.
Yeah, we ended up planting them, and the wave just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger instead of tailing off like it normally
we got
did.
to the usual point where we're like, oh, I think we're having a failure year, and then...
Yeah, and then the population crashed, and with the fertilization...
kicking in,
watering,
and there were bats out here at night, and then the parasitic wasps came through, and whatever birds, those ones that swoop.
We had a lot of swallows, and they were kind of working, feeding over them. So I mean, it's a combination of just nature in general.
And when I see them, I squish them.
Yep. The other final point to note before we move on is these boxes all have daffodils. And so these will be our spring daffodil beds.
So this also shows that you can plant over them. So we will not dig these out.
Nope.
They will be chopped
cut to the ground
and dropped.
Yeah, we'll cut the zinnias off. We won't use the zinnia as a mulch.
No, we're gonna put it.
We're gonna definitely make more JLF.
Yeah, because we used it all up.
We used it all up, and then whatever's extra, we kind of create a slow compost pile off to the side that's used later on in the season. Like we use it in the summertime for making JMS extracts.
So all the zinnia beds have daffodils in it. The one Oklahoma one in the back that I'll show you has got anemones, and they're already showing greenery.
Yeah, they're growing in the understory
of it. So that's an indicator that it must be time, which is what we're going to be starting up next, is doing our anemones.
Well, what'll be interesting to see is how strong they are once we cut the zinnias back. And I mean, surely they're not going to bloom in the wintertime, but they will definitely have a chance to grow a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys the EZ-Flo system. The company's still in business, and they still make probably a more improved model. And this seemed to work out really well for putting on the liquid fertilizer. You know, it's kind of always a challenge to try to find a way to put on a biologic-based fertilizer without, you know, clogging systems up and things of that nature. But I think with the filtration, initial filtration, and then another second filtration before it goes to the drip lines, I haven't noticed any problems at all. And so definitely going to do this again next year, and probably look to expand this kind of system elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because I think it can also deliver the microbe solution too.
I mean, I was, you know, wondering if all this stinky bucket stuff is going to make a difference, and I'm just so happy with the Alstroemeria over here. That it's a small patch, but I've never seen it that healthy with that many buds still coming up in the fall. Yeah. And I just gotta fight the deer for them. Well, they take nips at it, and I think they don't like the taste because they take a nip and then they move on.
Yeah, and they forget, and they come back and take another nip.
And then the zinnias have been so wonderful, and they don't eat those at all, so that's something good.
And we got some marigolds that are going to be coming on in October.
And they look really good. We're just hoping that they look big, but they're going to, it's going to rain, and we'll have to see how they handle the rain. Yep. So it's anyway, a win.
Thanks for watching today, and as always, you know, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.